Next, we go into pushing and birthing. So, as I said, the last set of contractions are the ones where you're pushing the baby down. And this is why you don't necessarily have to push. Now, as you're having these kinds of contractions, you might feel the urge to bear down, or you might feel the urge to pee. And when you're doing that, you're actually opening up your body a little bit more. And I had this with my second birth with my daughter, where I noticed that during the peak of a contraction, it actually felt better for me to bear down a little bit, for me to just like push just a teeny little bit, like I was peeing, because that helped open my cervix, helped move her down, and helped ease out some of that pressure. So you're surrendering again to the movements of your body. If your body is telling you to push and your OB, on the other hand, is saying don't push, and you're not listening to your body, that can actually cause problems. So the truth is that you need to be following your body, not what other people are telling you. If your body is saying, hey, we need to push a little bit, you only push as much as you actually feel you need. You don't need to go all in with it. Okay. This can also help remove the cervical lip if there is one. This is again why you don't need vaginal exams, because as Rachel Reed talks about in her blog, Midwife Thinking, there's an article where she says it's like the cervical lip, how to ruin a perfectly good birth. And the idea is like the medical system's like, oh, there's a cervical lip, you can't push yet. But really, if you're in the right positions and you're navigating for your body, that if they never stuck their fingers up there, they'd never know that there was a cervical lip and you would have had your baby. And it just, you're following your own timeline. So with pushing, you need to recognize that your body is going to do it. It's going to signal when to do it. Do not start pushing just because you're fully dilated. Sometimes you get a rest and be thankful phase. And that means rest, sleep. One of my clients, she had her home birth after 2 previous C-sections. She'd never pushed before in her life. But what she was doing is like within 2 hours, she was pushing in 2 hours, but she was getting breaks. So she'd feel a contraction and she'd start to push down and then she'd rest. And sometimes she'd be resting for 7 minutes and she'd just be on her back resting. And then she'd get back onto her hands and knees and she'd start pushing again. And then she'd go back to sleep. And then she'd start pushing again. And then she'd start to go back to sleep. And then like this went on for 2 hours, but eventually that baby came down. So when you recognize like you don't actually have to have your baby in under an hour, you could be pushing for a little bit, but as long as your body is doing its thing and you're not interfering, this is how your baby needs to come. Maybe it's that they're very high up. Maybe it's that they have to navigate your pelvis and they happen to be in a position that they really needed that extra time. Maybe it's that you need to allow yourself to stretch so that you don't tear. You want to avoid tearing, you don't want to push too fast. So recognizing that with pushing, follow your body. As you feel that stretch happening, you pant through it. You don't push. You feel that stretch happening, you don't push anymore. You let your body stretch and accommodate. And you can go and breathe the baby out. And there comes a point where you're just like, baby is going to just fly out. They're just going to fly out. As soon as they get to that point, it's like they shoot out like a little torpedo. Your uterus will also do a lot of the work for you. If you are doing the hold your breath and push thing, this affects your pelvic floor. You don't want to do that. This is, again, why when people are like, well, how will I know how to push if this is my first time pushing, especially if you've only had C-sections or if this is your first baby, recognize your body knows how to do this. If you were unconscious, your body would still birth with or without your participation. It would just happen. It's a reflex. So recognizing that the baby will come out will help you release a lot of that fear.